So today we'll discuss clavicle. Clavicle is a long bone that lies horizontally, unlike other bones or other long bones in the human body that lie vertically. So clavicle, like other bones, long bones have two ends. This is one end of the clavicle and this is the other end. And it has a shaft, this curved S-shaped shaft. Now clavicle doesn't have an upper end or a lower end because it is not lying vertically. It lies horizontally, so it has a medial end and a lateral end. Now how do we determine that this is the medial end and this is the lateral end? The medial end of clavicle is quadrangular. It is broad from all sides. And the lateral end of the clavicle is flattened from above downwards. As you can see, this is flattened from above downwards. Now the medial end of the clavicle is attached to the sternum to form the sternoclavicular joint, and the lateral end of the clavicle is attached to the acromion process of scapula to form the acromioclavicular joint. So this is all about the two ends of the clavicle. Now the shaft of the clavicle is curved shaped. This is the medial 2/3 of the clavicle and this is the lateral 1/3 of the clavicle. Now how do we know that this is the medial 2/3 and this is the lateral 1/3? Anatomically placing, the medial 2/3 of clavicle is convex anteriorly and the lateral 1/3 of clavicle is concave anteriorly. So this medial 2/3 is convex anteriorly and this lateral 1/3 is concave anteriorly. So right now I'm holding clavicle anatomically. This is the medial end attached with the sternum and this is the lateral end attached with the acromion process of the scapula. Now the medial 2/3 of clavicle has four surfaces: the upper superior surface, the inferior surface, the anterior surface and a posterior surface. And the inferior surface presents a groove that is called the subclavian groove. Now the lateral 1/3 of the clavicle has an anterior border and a posterior border, upper surface and a lower surface. The lower surface has a tubercle called the conoid tubercle and an adjoining ridge called the trapezoid ridge. Now we'll briefly discuss the attachments on this long bone. The lateral end of the clavicle is flattened and it gives attachment to the capsule of the acromioclavicular joint here. The anterior border of the lateral 1/3 of clavicle gives attachment to the deltoid muscle and the posterior border gives attachment to the trapezius muscle. This is all about, and the conoid tubercle and trapezoid ridge gives attachment to the coracoclavicular ligaments. Now we'll discuss the medial 2/3 of the clavicle. The anterior surface of the medial 2/3 of clavicle gives attachment to the pectoralis major muscle and the superior surface of the medial 2/3 of clavicle gives attachment to the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Now let's discuss briefly about the inferior surface. The inferior surface has the subclavian groove. The subclavian groove gives attachment to the subclavius muscle and the borders of this subclavian groove give attachment to the clavipectoral fascia. So I'll summarize all these attachments. Here we have attachment of pectoralis major. Here we have attachment of the sternocleidomastoid. Here is the attachment for the capsule of the sternoclavicular joint. Here we have the attachment for the capsule of the acromioclavicular joint. Here is attached the deltoid muscle. Here we have trapezius muscle. On the inferior surface we have subclavius muscle and the borders of this subclavian groove give attachment to the clavipectoral fascia. So the clavicle has all these attachments that I have discussed. It has the two ends, the medial end which is quadrangular and the lateral end which is flattened from above downwards. Inferior surface has a groove that is the subclavian groove and the lateral 1/3 has a conoid tubercle, this one, and an adjoining trapezoid ridge. This is all about clavicle. Thank you.